Good evening. It is Tuesday, October 23rd with me, Bobby, and tonight's video is going to be a little bit longer because I have to answer Rob's question and propose my own. So we'll answer Rob's question, which was, how has learning in technology led to action? And I have two stories that I really need to tell. One in which I helped someone through uh, my teaching to affect action in them, and another one related in which how I learned something about myself and then have decided to make a specific commitment coming up. Uh, so back when I was in college, there was me and a couple of friends who were all science majors, mainly chemistry, and we all got involved in a forum. And in this forum, one of the subsets was a science and technology area. And that's kind of where I hung out and posted mostly, generally just commenting on various technologies or news articles dealing with technology and science. But from time to time, there'd be issues with certain members going, I don't know what's going on. Can someone please explain this? And me and my friend would try our best to elaborate in a more scientific manner than what the media has sanitized a concept on. And they'd be on their way. And we did this for a couple of years, and there were certain people who did ask questions who honestly really loved our responses. And eventually, a couple of them asked us, how did we actually go about thinking like that and learning like that? And we tried our best, and I hope they uh, have grown from this. But we kind of went through the process of, well, we have to be really critical about what we read. Don't take everything at face value. If you don't know a subject, find someone who does. Look on Wikipedia if it's a non-controversial and a very heavily edited and um, filled out site, and go from there. And just constantly ask questions and find people who can answer questions if you yourself cannot find the answer. And a lot of the people who did ask us how we went about doing this were very well received, and I'm really happy that they've kind of learned a little bit about the critical thinking that me and my friend used on a regular basis within our own coursework and curricula. Um, we really enjoyed that part. So, uh, in a flip side sort of way, I left that forum and I'm not there anymore. But I came to graduate school, and the course that I TA'd for the first year of it had a very large online portion, very similar in layout to the forum, in which there were areas where where the students could post and have various questions, and we as TAs were required to answer them on our respective days. Now, being on that forum, I kind of fell into the groove pretty quickly. My own coursework kind of dogged me a little bit, but I felt really comfortable answering the questions, and it became very clear that I really had a nice knack for answering questions, even though the students asking the questions may not know what I'm talking about. And they don't have me sitting right there drawing on a whiteboard or just talking them out the issues and out the topics. And they seem to have been very well received. And for me, that was really encouraging for my own personal development and being able to convey scientific ideas in chemistry. So after that year, I had changed tracks, and I had joined a master's teaching program. And along with this change in career paths, I also decided that I want to develop an online presence in which I have a site dedicated to kind of scientific musings of sorts, me kind of putting my own rehash on news and science, as well as create some uh, online lessons for chemistry. Because chemistry to me is a really big deal because chemistry is all around us and plays such a large role in our lives, and yet most people will go throughout their day without even thinking or knowing. And to me, that's kind of a hope that there is this level of understanding even if you are not directly related to a chemistry field. Um, so that kind of brings me to my question, which has to deal with how has technology led to misconceptions in your career? So that's the question I give you to everyone. So, being from a science field and specifically chemistry, technology, and specifically the internet has been a great medium to allow for information to travel at much uh, faster paces and reach a much wider audience. And uh, breakthroughs are seen much more uh, widely than they have in the past. So that is a great thing that has come of the technology that surrounds the internet, but it also has this very um, problematic part with it. As fast as technology can send good news, bad news, and uh, such fear mongering that can come out of said bad news travels even faster. And I have two, uh, one that's chemistry related, and another recent story that shows science being put in an interesting and sometimes problematic light. So the first one was a story that I talked about in the class EPS 415, and it was about this young woman who went to a bar in London, I believe, or some English city. Uh, and she ordered this drink, and it involved having liquid nitrogen in it. And in the process of her drinking it, she drank it so quickly that liquid nitrogen actually was able to get to her stomach and caused perforations and rupturing, and she had to have her stomach removed. Now, this in and of itself, is a very sad story, and it is terrible that this happened to this young woman. And I cannot stress it enough that this this is something that's just plain terrible. But the media portrayed this in such a light that it really made my blood boil how they talked about it. They talked about the liquid nitrogen as being toxic. And that's just not true. That is absolutely false. It's not toxic. It's nitrogen. It's N2. There's two nitrogen molecules together. It's in the air. Most of our air is nitrogen. It isn't toxic. It's a cryogen. It's really cold. It keeps the superconductors or the superconducting magnets in MRI machines cool enough to work. It does its job very well. It keeps things cold. It keeps them cold for a long time. That said, it's not toxic. It just freezes or it expands when it evaporates rapidly into nitrogen gas, which both of those most likely played a role in this young woman's stomach being perforated. That's not toxic. The use of these terms incorrectly just really drives home these points of scaring chemists or making chemists look like scary people, and chemistry being a very scary field. Yes, there's a lot of bad things that have come out of chemistry, a lot of terrible chemical weapons. That's part of the history of it, and I understand that. But we're beyond most of that, and we've spent most of our time trying to help uh, society through various means possible. We've created various drugs that are used in the pharmaceutical industry that can cure various ailments. We're constantly trying to find better ones. We we put a lot of effort into what we do. Um, Plastic, Kevlar, all of these are chemicals that we've created, and there's always this bad rap that has appeared, and most of it there is a grain of truth to it. That woman did have a terrible thing happen. That's the fact. But then all of these other things are surrounding it, and those become more important than the actual nugget of truth. Liquid nitrogen is not toxic. Um, I can't drive that home any more than that. And the second misconception that can occur that has actually sent scientists in Italy to jail. Um, that came out today. Was that science is this infallible and all-knowing entity? It's not true. We have a good idea. Most of the time, we're going to be right, or mostly right, and we do a good job, and we crash test every theory and every idea that we put through our minds to see if it's going to fail. And we try very hard. I mean, I can't speak for everyone. There are some unscrupulous scientists. They exist. They're in all walks of life. But when scientists get to a point in which they don't really know, and they tell you we cannot foresee issues involved being problematic, that's not to say that they can't happen. A little history here. There was a massive earthquake in Italy that killed over 300 people. And in the time leading up to it, 6 seismologists and geologists met in the city to seek out and try and determine the susceptibility of a major earthquake in the area. And those 6 scientists and a official with the state concluded that there was no inherent threat from the tremors that were occurring in the area. Sadly, they were wrong, and 300 people perished. And they went to trial, and they were convicted today. They're going to be spending 6 years in jail. Well, now you've scared every scientist from ever making a comment about anything that could be controversial or lead to injury. We get it. There needs to be some sort of responsibility. I know for me, in a scientific frame of mind, I hate being wrong when I think that my prediction should be right. And I don't deal with predictions that would lead to bodily harm of other people. I can only imagine how devastated these scientists were when they found out about this. That should be enough punishment to know that people trusted their judgment and they were wrong. And now you're going to punish them again by sending them to jail. Sure, justice needs to be served, but sometimes people make mistakes. And for me, I feel that this is really overstepping the bounds of what needs to be done. Sorry. It's just really hard for me to feel like the scientific community can continue when these issues happen. I mean, there's obviously an ethical part to this in which most likely I'm wrong. Uh, I can I can accept that, but I just feel that in doing such an action as to set the statement that if you make a prediction that leads to the death of someone due to unforeseen or unforeseeable circumstances, you should go to jail on that. That's a dangerous precedent. You're going to hold scientists back. I mean, honestly, if I was a seismologist or a geologist in Italy, I will never ever speak in an official manner about whether or not an earthquake is going to happen. I wouldn't. That's something I would never do if I was in that situation because of what happened today. Sorry to end on kind of a bad note. Um, this is something that bothers me deeply, as you can probably tell, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to create that uh, online blog and information center, is because uh, science only has a few people who advocate for it, and I feel I wish to contribute and try and make people more aware. So that's where I'm coming from, and uh, hope this doesn't turn out to be a really downer of a week. So, thanks for everyone listening, and good night.